Going into section 9. All right. Some changes to recurrent training schedules. So this is some more protection for recurrent training when it's changed on you. Early in base months, pilot will concur to the new assignment of recurrent training in the grace month, can only be assigned once schedules are awarded and can only be scheduled on work days. So improvement from today where you get to designated period of days off, but that's it. That's all you get protected from. The removed from training includes moving the start time of the training footprint to be earlier, or if there's a change to the start, if the ending time is more than 24 hours later. And that comes up again in another provision shortly. Lost days off for post-award. So it's something coming after PBS. This is a change, not necessarily an improvement, but line holders who lose days off to attend training not included in PBS will get 5 hours of ad pay, $4.15 for this year for each day lost. Today, you get a vacation day lost, or a vacation day for each day lost. All right, so recurrent training delays. If a training footprint ends later than the original footprint, you get 2 hours of ad pay. So this is sort of like training overtime pay. And if your training footprint is scheduled to end on the next day, that'll increase to 4 hours. It will not apply if the training is removed and is replaced with new training that reports earlier than 24. So we talked about that previously. What happens if it goes more than 24? But they can do it if it reports earlier than 24. All right, so this is toe in the water into bidding for training schedules. So if you're scheduled to start your long training in the same status and equipment as other pilots, you'll be able to preference amongst each other for the pre-built training schedules. So I hate to get into this because I'm not 100% sure, although we have some experts here that might know, but the schedules are built pretty far in advance. So by the time you know when you're going to go to training, the shells are usually already built. So the idea here is that you'll know among similarly placed pilots that are going to go to training who you're up against, and that all of you would bid together and indicate your preference for the shells that are already built. Do you like late sims, early sims, different start dates, so on and so forth. That'll be done for captains first, and then the captains will have priority so that what's left for first officers, a first officer won't necessarily be awarded if it creates an illegality, if that pilot can't be paired with the captain that has the other part of it already ahead of time. Right, deviation from training and landings class. So today you're restricted to your primary residence or your base. Tomorrow you'll be able to deviate to and from your training travel the same way as when you're deviating from a deadhead.
That'll be positive space?
Yes, same way.
You say tomorrow, you mean October?
Yeah, should it ratify? So maybe I should preface that. Today means current book. Tomorrow means if this ratifies in October. Yes. A broad definition of tomorrow. I'm a Spaniard. Mañana doesn't mean tomorrow. It means not today. Right? Okay. So I get confused in English all the time. All right. Training footprints of 5 and 6 days. So 5 days of training, including the travel days, will now be built into a 6-day footprint, which will include a day off. So that's been the awfulism with that kind of a short period of training up until now. With 6 days of training, which will include the travel days, that'll be built into a 7-day footprint with a day off. The difference here is that this is how the long training and short training cliff occurs when you go from the 3 hours to the 5 hours, right? Well, actually 3.75 hours. It will be 3:07 and 5 hours mañana. The difference in long and short training, that accounts for the embedded days off in the footprint. Today, 5 days would pay the long training amount, but does not include the day off. And that's the awfulism. If you have long training, it should include days off. Evening, night training events prior to days off. So good change here. A training schedule with a debrief time. So your last day of your training block, if you debrief after 1600, when you come back, you won't start until you won't start before 12. The idea there is to actually get some meaningful days off. If you have more than 2 consecutive days off, this won't apply. So it's to protect those 2 days.
Gets rid of the no days off.
Did I? Maybe it's reordered. Yeah. So training blocker days, a source of consternation for many pilots. So we've created some pilot optionality here. Today, do we have it today? We don't have it today. Well, today you pick them either at the, right after you get done with training or after your OE, and there's a pay implication depending on how you do that. The options now will be the 3 unpaid days will occur after the completion of training prior to OE, like today, after the completion of OE, like today as well, or no unpaid days. You'll get 3 more OE blocker days that are paid. And that'll be a 307. And what you're doing there is giving the company the flexibility of where to put them, but you'll be paid for them, which is different from today where they're unpaid. A crew complement for evaluations. So there's a sort of a mitigation series of steps here to make sure that we have a better complement for pilots going through check rides. 2 new hires cannot conduct an evaluation together. 2 737 to 320 trainees when neither is a new hire, provided both pilots concur. Captain trainee, first officer trainee who have conducted 3 events together. And then 2 captain trainees. And then when we get into the other fleets, okay, 756, 777, 787, first officer trainees. So 2 first officers essentially, as long as neither is a new hire and provided they've been together 3 times minimum. And max extent possible for first time captain trainees, they'll be paired with a first officer when the captain has less than 2,000 hours and less than 500 hours of flight time at United in the 12 recent bid periods. So both a total experience and a recency of experience trigger. That is one we tried to get very hard to get the company to agree to just outright. And I will say that is one that we didn't get what we were trying to get. So what we got is the maximum extent possible. The company will shoot for those goals. Transition course, CBT training. So for the days on the computer spent that are tied to initial and transition training, there are 2 ways they can be scheduled. If they're attached to the training footprint, they'll be part of long training at 307 a day. If they're separated, they'll become short training. So they'll pay 5 per day. For the next 2 months after ratification, they'll pay 415. And but they can't be scheduled on a UPA holiday. So the UPA holiday would break that footprint. First time captain training course. Pilot training for the first time as a captain will always receive the full course if they have less than 1,000 hours. I believe they're doing that today already, and that's 1,000 hours at United. New 9J training. So this is really a clarification for Guam. So if you're not based in Guam, you need company concurrence to go to Guam to do that training. And 9J is like short training that's added on, like what was that called? The LEAP and the PPD. Yeah. And also company concurrence is required for a Guam line holder to attend training that is not in Guam, San Francisco, or LA, or the base nearest to where that pilot lives. An example of 9J training was LEAP class. That's really related to Guam specifically, although I suppose to everybody if you wanted to go to Guam to do the training. So this is another piece of the accelerated pilots that lives in section 9. And you've already seen it in the other slide. I don't think there's anything different here, but a little redundancy. Yeah, everything here you've seen, we just put it into a combined slide back in section 8. And then some cleanup items from 9, self-scheduling of ground training. That's the old doors simulators and maybe some CBTs that went with it at one time. company hasn't done that at all since the JCBA, so that language would be removed from section 9. And then when you have seat support instructors, the company will be able to do 2 evaluations in the same sim period. So imagine you have 2 new hires together being evaluated. They're not allowed to be evaluated together. So they'll get seat support. First one will go, step out, then the second one will go. They'll do it in 1 sim period. It's an example of that.